Good afternoon. This is Dr. Matthew Dunn, host of The Future of Email. My guest today, Jessica Totillo Coster. Did I get it right?
You did.
I got it right. Badass e-commerce and email strategy. You are a badass right there behind you. So I'm not
Yeah,
making.
that's for my clients when we're on calls to
Oh, is
remind
that
them.
it? Is that it?
Yeah.
So tell me about you.
Yeah, for sure. So if we go way back, I used to sleep in my new shoes as a little girl.
So you,
So, and yeah, the reason I share that is because that's what led me down the fashion retail path. And, when I was going to school, like Facebook wasn't a thing,
yeah,
Instagram wasn't a thing. E-com was barely a thing.
yeah.
So as I got older and started moving through, I just didn't want to get left behind. I was like, my background's all in brick and mortar retail. I used to own my own boutique. And I was like, I really need to get in on this digital thing. Otherwise, I'm going to be in the dust. So I just started, I can't not know something. So I just started teaching myself a lot of things. And then eventually through worked on ecom more and more. And it got to this place where I loved what I did, didn't love who I did it for, and just really wanted to help, the small business who started their product based business from their kitchen table and they're shipping out of their basement and kind of teaching them everything I learned the hard way
Mhm.
so they didn't have to. That's kind of how I ended up here.
Okay. So backtrack down that track a little bit. My experience of folks in retail, particularly people who wear their shoes to bed when they're a kid and fashion, was that in the adaptation to e-commerce, there was a very strong, no, 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 I have to be there, fondle them, try them on, see how it fits. There's no way to do this digitally. How'd you get over that?
Yeah. Well, I didn't. So one of the things that I teach my clients is how do we recreate the in-person experience on the internet? And if you
Okay.
can do that, you're going to stand out among everyone else trying to sell crap on the interwebs, right? And create an experience like nobody else has had before.
I,
And a
I,
lot of that comes through video, going live on social media. There's all these different ways you can do it, but I always approach it as how do I recreate the experience, not give it up.
gotcha. Um, and I would guess visual content is fairly critical in that equation.
Absolutely.
Because
Video
last
has
time I
really been the
checked,
thing.
I never, in fact, walked into a store, read a description of a pair of shoes and bought them ever.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Good. You're singing my song a little bit there. What's the balance these days? Let's narrow down to the fashion kind of niche, if you will. What's the balance e-com live retail these days? You know, I don't
I don't honestly, and I think it really depends. Look, brick and mortar's never going to go away. I truly
agree.
believe it will never go away. People just love the experience of shopping. It's an afternoon out. It's where I go to hang out with my mom, right? We shop, we have lunch, and that sort of thing. So I don't think it's ever going to go away. I think the consumer is more comfortable shopping online,
Hmm.
and I think those that have some sort of omni-channel option for them is really, the holy grail of it all.
Hmm.
But I think that, e-commerce is going to continue to grow, but I think brick and mortar will too. So I don't have a crystal ball there.
Anyone merging them particularly well that you know of?
I think lots of people are trying. What's funny is in all the advances in technology we've had, that creating that seamless experience is still very difficult. So at my previous day job, before I went off on my own, the last project that I was working on was creating the omni-channel experience, right? So they started out with brick and mortar stores, then we built e-commerce and trying to one merge the experience for the customer through things like our rewards program and gift cards and buy online, pick up in store. It still took a ton of custom development. We worked on it for, I mean, I I consulted with them for an entire year after I left because
Yeah.
we still weren't done.
Yeah.
So I think some of the best that I've experienced as a consumer is Nordstrom is really great at it.
Surprised.
Yeah. I've had not so great experiences with stores like Best Buy. I mean, I remember going in to pick up a buy online, pick up in store order, and I was like, it would have been faster if I just walked in here off the street and checked out the regular way. So something's broken
Yeah.
in that system. But I think that they're getting easier. We're just not quite there yet.
Well, one of the non-obvious hurdles in the marriage of brick and mortar and e-commerce, and you touched on it essentially, is that the brick and mortar has to become fully digital.
Hmm.
Like you can't go, oh, and they'll walk in and magically the thing they ordered will be no. That means the way you run your brick and mortar operation has to change. The systems there have to be systems to
100%.
make those things meld up. I true story on myself just for fun. Early days of e-commerce. I mean, early days of e-commerce, 97, 98. I spent about a year as a consultant on a project to help what was then the largest bookstore chain in Canada go online. They were petrified that that darn American upstart Amazon might move to Canada next. True story. Chapters. So they were pulling in people all over the universe because it wasn't like econ was a widely known skill set. I built a book database. This is a bookstore. Okay. I built the book database. Uh, Another firm built the e-commerce platform. In those days, you built e-commerce platforms from more or less scratch in a database. Um, and we more or less turned the switch on, and then someone went, "Oh shit, this isn't really connected to our inventory system, is it?"
Yeah.
Oh shit. Right. So it was all hands on deck Christmas morning, packing packages and hoping to God we hadn't run out of Harry Potter or whatever the heck they were
Yeah.
ordering.
Yeah. And
Right.
the thing is, inventory is, even if it is connected, inventory is never right.
Mm.
It's never, I mean, like I said, I've worked in retail 20 plus years. It's never right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can't avoid it 100%.
Yeah. Cause you're dealing with the vagaries of the human race, AKA
Hmm.
shoppers, if nothing else. What do you think of moves like I brought him up already? The mighty Amazon beast doing trying to push into just order it. If you don't like it, send it back. Try then buy or whatever it's called. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I mean,
Yeah,
look, so if you in Zappos early days,
those early days.
right? They couldn't sell a damn shoe on the internet because everyone needed to try them on and they
Yeah.
didn't know how it was going to work out. And then I think it was Tony came in and said free returns.
Hmm.
And they were all like, "What?
What?
Oh my God." So they implement free returns and then all of a sudden they can sell things online. So all it's doing is it's removing the risk for the consumer. And the main reason we're not going to buy something online is because, like, what if I don't like it?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
do you know, actually, I have a good amount of packages sitting in my laundry room right now of stuff that got shipped that doesn't fit and I still
Right.
haven't returned it.
Right. Right.
It's just the human way. But if you can remove that risk for the customer, I think ultimately you'll make up whatever you lose, you're going to make up tenfold. So it doesn't matter. And it's the same thing with, a rebate or a guarantee. We know that like 98% of people are never going to redeem that. So
Yeah.
it's fine. Yeah.
Well, and the not just free return, but free and easy return, a simple process.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, guys, it's table stakes.
Mm-hmm.
Like my head would pop off if if it were, what do you mean I can't return it? Or what do you mean I have to sit on the phone, right? Fairly or unfairly, that's table stakes. It's how it works.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And I think, there are times when I've submitted for a return to Amazon and they're like, great, here's your refund, keep the item. Cause they know
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
more expensive to
Yes.
ship
To
it
ship it.
back and
Yeah.
all of that. And they're just like, "Ugh, it's done. I know the lifetime value of you is
Yeah.
worth way more than this spice that you don't want."
So that's why the like 75-pound attachment that I was thinking about putting on my wife's car so she could put her e-bike on the back of an EV that I decided was too much work to install. They were like, fine, take it to the, UPS store. We'll take care of the shipping. Like,
Mhm.
ooh, ouch. You guys must hate me. There, no, we like you. We actually know a lot about you and we like you just fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a funny world. And then the acceleration just must have done all sorts of things to and for your business of the pandemic.
So here, what's so funny is, how I started my business was completely by accident. It was when MailChimp and Shopify broke up.
Yes. I remember that.
And yeah, it was chaos in the small business community. And I, just hung out in a lot of Facebook groups because I love to be around entrepreneurs. And I knew I was going to have another one of my own businesses. I just didn't know what it was going to be. I figured it'd be a product based business because that's what I do. But I also have to be passionate about the product.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I have no interest in trying to sell it. So there wasn't anything I wanted to sell. But anyway, so this happens. And I just start talking to people about their other options, specifically Klaviyo.
Mhm.
And then people start messaging me saying, I'm on Klaviyo, but I'm struggling or I need to switch. Can you help me? And I was like, oh, sure. Get a little side gig going. Let's see what happens. And then I was doing that for about 12 months on the side, right? I'm old, like I have bills. I couldn't just take the leap of faith. I needed to have a nest egg and everything figured out first. And I was getting ready to quit my job. And then COVID happened. And my husband is also an entrepreneur. He does real estate photography. And in those first few weeks of COVID, real estate was
Yeah.
shut down. And
Yeah.
we are like, I think I'm not quite yet. Let's hang on to this. Let's see what kind of happens and all that. And eventually real estate was deemed, what were they calling it?
Yeah. Necessary, vital, something like that.
Yeah, whatever it was deemed that. So he continued working and we live in Southern California. So the mass
Oh,
exodus of California was actually really great for his business. But then I continued to work. But it was interesting because my clients, right, their businesses were blowing up. The company I worked for, we had 25 retail stores shut down. Our ecom business was blowing up. And while everyone else was sitting home bored, learning new skills, starting new businesses, me and my husband were probably the busiest we've ever been in our entire lives. But it all worked out in the end. And it was a rapid acceleration of learning about things I already knew, but seeing them in a new light, right? Like marketing. So all of a sudden our messaging strategy and everything had to change because people were stressed out and sensitive and didn't really want to hear jokes. And so it was like, here I am creating all the emails for this business and oh, I have to approach this completely differently. And, seeing some of those smaller companies like, oh crap, I mostly sell all my stuff at markets and now people are buying from my website. And so it was a crazy, exciting time and I'm glad it's all over.
I've said multiple times, we were far more fortunate than we realize with the timing of that particular bug breaking out and shutting down the world, because had that happened 5 years earlier, it wouldn't have worked the same.
Yeah, we wouldn't have been ready.
We wouldn't have been ready, right? I mean,
Yeah.
everybody went, oh, jump on Zoom. There was no Zoom 5 years earlier. I've used every video conferencing platform since God knows when, and they all sucked. And they all cost
Exactly.
15 minutes of tech support every time you had a call with someone, if you could coax them into it. And nobody had a camera or a microphone, et cetera, et cetera. It's like we had
Yeah.
just started to make it easy.
Yeah.
We had just kind of gotten to where broadband was something you could expect. We had just this. And fortunately, enough businesses, you almost said it, enough businesses had sort of started saying, well, maybe we need a website, maybe we need e-commerce, maybe we could also sell there. And snap, everybody shut the door, stay home. What? Even a few years difference, and that would have been a much bigger undertaking. And I know there are businesses that kind of overgrew, Zoom being one of them, overgrew
Yes.
on the
Yes.
back
For
of
sure.
that and, pulled their next 5 years of demand into about a 1 year window. Fine, great, whatever. It's rewritten a bunch of things, but we really did kind to get lucky. And where I was going with that is one of the things, to my mind, having been around e-com and email for a long time, on the turnkey storefront, the turnkey email marketing platform, the kind of stuff that sounds like you advise clients on.
Mhm.
Hallelujah. That's a whole lot easier than when we used to build it from stone knives and bearskins, like payment gateways and all the other stuff. It was just a complete freaking nightmare, months of expensive consultants. Now you go, click, turn the
Yeah. And you
key,
got a store.
and you got a store. Oh,
Yeah.
damn,
And
that's
I
cool.
will say, Shopify did a really great
Yes,
job
they did.
during that time and just
Yes.
making it even easier for people.
Yeah.
And, one of the things that I always tell my clients is you have to have more than one way to sell to people, right? So even the Amazon sellers, hey, if your product was non-essential, that was what it was, essential.
That's the
If,
word. Yeah.
if your product was non-essential, they weren't shipping it.
Mhm.
Right? So you needed your own website to be able to continue to sell and do
Yeah.
that stuff. So,
Yeah.
I think it taught everyone a lot of things about a lot of things.
Although,
But yeah,
yeah,
the
yeah.
tech was clutch for sure.
And that, like, yes, it's slightly hard. Yes, why is it this complicated? You know what? Sit down and figure it out. You can sit down and figure it out. Right? I mean,
Mhm.
the not urban myth is like every school district in America was still working on their 10-year plan to go digital, and then they implemented it in 2 weeks. Guess what? Guess you figured it out, right? It-
Yeah, when you're under pressure.
when you don't have a choice, especially. I mean,
Yeah, for sure.
the small local grocery co-op that my wife loves and shops at did a curbside pickup like overnight. And you know what? It worked. And I think it was
Yeah.
one really nice lady holding the damn thing together with rubber bands, but she held it together and we could go
Yeah.
with our stupid masks on and park at the curb and get
Yeah, and
groceries.
I tell people something similar, like about their employees, because I've experienced this many times over, spending so many years leading other people and all that. And at my last job, I was there the longest of most of them, and I
Yeah.
was involved in so many different parts of the business. So I was the go-to. Like any question, go to
Yeah.
Jessica; she'll
Yeah. Go to
know.
Jessica Schulman.
And when we were in the office, it was constant phone calls, knocking on the door, all of that stuff. And I used to remember, like, I'd be sick, but I had too much work to do. So I'm like, I just can't be there to get everyone else sick. This is pre-COVID, but I need to work, right? So I work from home and I'm like, wow, I got an entire day and a half of work done in about 4 hours because nobody's interrupting me. And so when we went to moving to working from home, I was like, this is great. Like I could do this all day because when people don't have easy access to the answer, they will figure it out. They just need the space to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Which that opens a couple of fun segues. I agree with you, but by contrast, I have mostly what we now call work from home 20 plus years. So when we first decided to shut the globe down, I was busy working. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what are you guys all so bothered about? Like, this is the same. I know, no, it wasn't the same.
Yeah.
But for me, it was like another day in the office. Cool. Right. So, some of us were kind of already there. I obviously agree with you about the the work from home thing. I talk to colleagues who are at, agencies, small companies, et cetera, and I detect more than a little emotion when you say the word Slack to them, because
Mhm.
the figured out yourself gets taken away again when you're just one flipping Slack message. Oh,
Away, yeah.
yeah, and I'm pretty disciplined about, like, you know what, in the morning, shut up, leave me alone. I'm actually doing stuff. I'm not available. Figure it out. Leave quietly. I'll get to you in the
Yeah.
afternoon.
Unless it's burning down,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
need my attention right now.
Yeah, and an actual emergency is a pretty rare thing, in business. I wonder, this is the segue. I wonder whether one of the things that the advent of chatty AI will take off our plates is go like go ask Skippy the AI. Don't bother me with this stuff.
Well, here's the thing, you don't even need AI for that, just Google it,
Yeah, really.
okay? Like, and I tend to be a little passive aggressive, which people either love or hate me for, and I'm like, "Let us Google that answer for you." And then I go send them
Nice.
the link to search
Nice.
results,
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, but yeah. Yeah, but hey, I mean, I just had a little chat with Chat GPT the other day about some coding things to see, how
Yep.
does this work? And then
Yep.
I was like, oh, okay. So what you're saying is X. And they said, yes. So use this code to do that. I was like, thanks.
I I'm paying the $20 a month, and I've got a GPT 3 and 4 top and bottom window right on the monitor most of the day, because it's such a great learning tool. It,
Yeah.
I'm stuck. I don't really get fill in the blanks. Hey, Skippy, how the hell does this work?
Yeah.
Types it out. And I'm like, could you type faster? You're pissing me off. Sorry, we're at capacity. Oh, well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Like, yeah, it's a big change. Not going to put, as we were talking about before we started, not going to put human beings out of the human being business.
No, definitely not. I recently did a very deep dive into all of the AI for my own podcast. And I teach people email, and people are always asking me for swipe files, right? They want some kind of template. And I never want to give it to them because ultimately we're all overthinking what needs to go in a marketing email. And like, just think about what your customer needs to hear and speak to them like a human. So I always resist it, which is also the reason why I resist things like AI. But everyone's asking me about it, and Chat GPT is just like blowing up. And I'm like, oh, okay, let me just make an episode on it. It'll be fine. I will say that by the time I was done researching them and playing around with them, I'm like, I don't really hate this as much as I thought I was going to. But one, there's a good way to do it and a not so good way to do it. And two, it's never going to replace human. It's a freaking computer. It doesn't understand all the nuance, right? And it's only as good as the information it was given, which is also not always accurate. So I think they have a place in content creation, in learning, and getting answers and all of that good stuff. But I do agree that they're not going to replace humans anytime soon.
Yeah. They'll augment, they'll extend, they'll
Mhm.
assist. Interesting choice of,
Yeah.
word there. And the other thing that, is to your example of being the indispensable longest time person at a company. Most of the knowledge that made you indispensable was the knowledge unique to that company.
100%.
Right.
You know how many
So
videos I made when I left there?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And we're at the beginning of it's interesting timing for AI. We're at not the beginning, we're partway into the generational retirement wave of the big boomer bulge leaving the workforce with a whole bunch of stuff between their ears that's not written down. And there's a lot of companies that are facing a world of hurt when, Bill and Wilma walk out the door and they're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm retired. See ya. Bye. No, my problem.
For sure.
So, and you're not going to get that from an AI. Why? Because what makes most businesses particularly valuable is inside the company, knowledge and IP and intellectual resources and things like that. Mostly, mostly employees and relationships, probably at the end of the days. Yeah, it's a bit fun watching this kick off, and it's fascinating and it's useful, but it's no cause for panic.
Right. 100%. I agree. And, there's all the jokes and the memes about all the, duplicate content and the crappy content we're going to start seeing on the internet. And there's one, I can't remember who created it, but it's a cartoon and it's basically a comment thread about AI. And everyone's like, yeah, AI is really great. And the next guy, yeah, AI is really great. And the comment is all exactly the same from everyone. Uh, so
Yes,
that'll be fun.
that'll
Edit
be
your
fun.
AI stuff, guys.
Yeah, don't panic. It's only going to be helpful. It's a bit more like when someone realized that graphical interface was better than a character interface. It's got that kind of, oh, you're making this machine more useful. I'm fine with that, right? Not,
Yeah.
oh my God, the world's going to change completely. Plus, we know where the off switch is last time I checked. In fact, Chat GPT was down yesterday, day before. It was down for an hour or something like that. I'm sure it was server capacity because everyone on the planet is
Yeah.
jumping on the bandwagon. And I thought, that's probably good.
Yeah. Mhm.
That being said, got my cheat windows up here, whether it's learning or find another way to say this, because I don't think I'm phrasing it very well. Any of those, like just an assistive tool. Hey, jump back to something you said because I'm curious about this. You help entrepreneurs, business folks who are running businesses similar to the kinds that you have created yourself to sort of get up on the step with e-commerce and email, probably Shopify and Klaviyo especially, right?
Mhm. Yes, for
So
sure.
what is new customer X walking in the door tend to know and then not know about the email side of running a business?
Yeah. So one of the things that I discovered very early on was most small business entrepreneurs who sell physical products, like if you're a service-based business, I can't help you. But if you sell physical products that I know, they're not utilizing email to its fullest potential at all. Which is fine because it keeps me in business, right? I'm here to teach you all day long on the importance of it and get you started. Happy to do that. But that was the biggest thing is they're either not using it enough, just not sending enough emails, or didn't really believe in the power of it.
Hmm.
And what I find, because most of the people that I work with, right, they created a product to solve their own problem and it turned into this business, or it's their hobby and they love it and it's fun and they just want to be around it. But they're not product and retail people. And one of the big things that hangs them up is they're afraid of being salesy and just showing up and asking for the sales. So there's always a little bit of mindset work that goes into that. Like, this is business, not a hobby. You got to sell. And if you're selling to them, your competitor is selling to them. So let's just get in their inbox more. Okay. Uh, so really, it's just like the actual doing it and getting in. And then I really like to focus on obviously the automation piece because none of us started our own businesses to create another job, right? We want to make more while doing less. And one of the ways that you do that in e-commerce is through email automation. Make money on autopilot while you sleep. Who doesn't want that? So that's always the first thing. And then just getting people really comfortable with sending emails all of the time, multiple
Mhm.
times a week,
Mhm.
sending more until your people tell you to stop sending them.
Right, right. Is one of the points of resistance to already being there when someone, comes in your door that they're not sure it's going to pay off?
Sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes it's funny because so many of us, and I do this too, we spend so much time, energy, and effort creating an Instagram post that 3% of our audience is going to see and is going to be gone
Yeah.
24 hours later, buried in the feed. And we're like, that didn't really make me any money, but tomorrow I'm going to post again and see if it goes different. Whereas when you send an email, 99% of the time it makes you money. So I tell people all the time, if you can only do one,
Yeah.
send an email.
Yeah.
And just the other day, I was on a call with one of my clients slash students, and she, the Q1, she was kind of stepping away from her business and just taking care of herself. She was like, I just need a break. She sells candles, so most of her business happens in Q4 anyway. But she's like, the other day, like, I was just thinking, I hadn't sent an email in a while. So, like, I sent an email and guess what happened? I was like, what? She's like, I got orders. Check. So it's like we need this constant reminder that it actually works. And I mean, I haven't really figured out like the root cause yet, but working on it.
I remember it's more technically available and more commonplace now, but one of the first businesses that I launched where the website was the face to the world, there was this strange, like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know if this is working or not, right? Because you could sit there finding a zillion things to slave away at, but you're not really getting any stimulus. And I found out at that time, it was pretty technologically novel. Whoopra was the first real time website monitoring. So I literally had a map sitting on a monitor here, and it would light up when someone from that place was visiting the website. And it wasn't the data out of Woopra, which I routinely ignored. It was more the sense of, oh, like someone's actually freaking there. Someone's looking at
Right.
that, or they're going from this page to that page. That, it helps you say, okay, stay at it or do the next thing. Why? Because there's actually someone
Yeah.
paying attention to this. And emails, same thing. It can stay all too invisible and just seem like yet another thing in your to-do list
Yeah.
until you get the actually got orders or someone wrote back or something like that. And a friend of mine in the email space, Della West, who he says a lot of smart stuff, but one of the things he said is, you're making an impression even if they don't open it.
100%.
They're going to see your name or your company name, and they're going to see the subject line. And even if they delete it because they're really busy that day, dip,
Yeah.
dip, like it's part of just showing up and being part of their life, kind of
It's
a thing.
just being top of mind
Yeah,
so that when they're ready to buy, you're the person that they think of, right?
yeah,
There's a reason why companies will send you, branded calendar magnets to stick on your fridge, right? So you're always thinking about them, even if you don't need their services right now.
yeah,
It's just like consumers are inundated with information and they cannot interact and respond to it all the time, but that doesn't mean that they don't see you.
yeah,
And I get reminded of this all the time, being a personal brand or someone who teaches stuff on the internet. Like I'm just putting out content all the time. And sometimes it feels like you're just putting it out into a void.
yeah,
And then that person comes and's like, oh, I've been listening to you, following you, doing this for a year.
yeah,
And I'm like, I've never even seen your name before. Like you've never engaged with anything. You've never commented. You never messaged me.
yeah.
There is this person who's been paying attention to literally everything.
A little
So
everything.
they're there even if they're not clapping.
Well, and the numbers really bear out what you just said. Like it it often feels like everybody is in the flipping content creation business because any digital channel you can name is just fire hose, right?
Yeah.
Truthfully, it's a single digit percentage of people who actually write something, draw something, make something, post something. Like it's in the single digits. If you
Yeah.
get off your butt and do it, that includes sending email, by the way. If you get off your butt and do it, you're already kind of moving to the head of the class just
Yeah.
by going ahead and doing something and saying something. Whether or not that feels like an intimidating move, um, it's worth that leap. It's yeah, it's a funny balance. Back to your Instagram example for just a second, though. Not that I've ever actually posted on Instagram. No interest. Uh, you don't have any ownership of that. You don't have any control of that. right? An algorithm's going to say, here's a few people who are going to see it. And then, as you said, it's going to scroll off. But that's all she wrote. You're done.
That's it. It's
All that work.
just, it's just like if you have a product business, I'll never tell you to build it solely on someone else's platform, right?
Mm.
If you want to have an Amazon business, because that's what you want to do, and you're Amazon FBA and you're chasing every trending product, that's a whole different model. I does not compute for me. But if you have a product that you love and you want to sell on Amazon, cool, but like have your own website too, so that when Amazon decides not to ship your product or they decide to knock you off because it's selling really well, uh, right, you still have this backup. But it's the same thing with your marketing channels. Like,
Yes.
I mean, does anyone remember Vine?
Wow.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure all of those creators were able to move over to YouTube or whatever else came up. But I mean, it basically fell off the face of the earth and was
Yeah.
no longer. So to put all your eggs in someone else's basket just doesn't seem like a smart idea to me. Now, I hang out on Instagram because the person I love be there, you know?
No, that select channel for audience, not the other way around.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. Makes perfect sense. One of the multiple reasons that I hang out in email is I like the fact that it's still sort of free range, quasi democratic, like pick your moniker. Right? You still got an astonishing degree of individual control over that channel. And so many of the others, there's a board sitting at the front door, saying pay up, pal, and you don't really own it, and I might shut it off and all that other stuff. And it's like, bugger that, right? Web less so, right? Search is the gatekeeper to the web, for better or worse. But at least Google can't take your website away. They may lower it in the rankings, but they actually can't take it away. They don't actually control that. And in email, very much, as long as you behave well, and the deliverability gods don't smack you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you must have gone through a pretty fast learn the platform curve when you jumped into the Klaviyo, Shopify. Yeah.
Yeah, well, let me tell you a story. So at my previous day job, so I was the ecom manager, and for the first 3 years, I was the only employee. We had some consultants, but that was just more people telling me what to do. And because I had come from the brick and mortar side, I was still very involved in that side of the business as well. So I was wearing more hats than I could probably fit on my head. And email was a really big one because we were in a restricted industry that could not do social ads. So email was our bread and butter,
Yeah.
right? We were on an enterprise platform that had feature requests from like 7 years ago, and they just weren't updating it. And they had recently been bought out by someone who then decided to retire it. And we're like, we're not going to support this anymore. So I had no choice but to leave. So I started doing my research and I came across Klaviyo, and it was all ready to go in on Klaviyo. And then some sales rep from this other company called our CTO, and we all got starry-eyed at this other enterprise platform that we went with. So this is a couple of months before Black Friday. So we move to this new platform, we get everything set up. Friday rolls around and my boss is emailing me like, how come I don't see any of our Black Friday emails? I'm like, what? So I go, and we had every other Friday off. So I think technically I was like basically on call, but at home, not in the office. So I'm logging in, I'm trying to figure everything out. Our emails didn't freaking send. So Black Friday weekend, I migrated 200,000 subscribers and all of our weekend campaign emails to Klaviyo. It was rough. It
Yeah.
was definitely rough, but I did it. It helped because I was like, I knew exactly what I was looking for. I knew the right questions to ask, right? I knew what to Google to get my answer. So I was able to get all of that set up and finished, but it was very stressful. But I really did fall in love with Klaviyo after that. And I spent so much time in it, and it's just so powerful. And the integration with Shopify, which we were on Shopify Plus after a horrific stint on Magento, which is a whole other story.
Yeah.
You know, look, some of the biggest brands are on Shopify. If it's good enough for them, it's good enough for you. And if you ever scale so big that you're like, oh, this out of the box thing isn't right for me, there's a whole lot of custom stuff you can do as you move up. Um, it's fine. So just go to Shopify.
No,
Eat dinner.
I think highly of what Shopify has done to quote myself from a second ago, kind of democratize e-commerce. Like,
Hmm.
there's a whole bunch of obstacles that aren't in the way, and they don't tell you what to do, and they don't say we'll charge you more than we'll charge him because you're making more. So, look, it's like buying a hammer, right? You're going to pay for a hammer, and then what you build with it on you after.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
it's
The
cool.
only thing I would say is it's also made it because the barrier to entry is so low.
Yeah,
Every Joe Schmo,
yeah.
right, can have an e-commerce site. And so it does create some not so great experiences on the internet. And for someone who is super serious about it, your competition is not just the person who sells what you sell, right? It's literally everything else in that person's life and every poor experience they've ever had with another business, which there's more of those, I feel like. Um, I do think that part of that came from, the boom of drop shipping a couple of years ago. Everyone's like, oh, I just started Shopify. Like, Shopify's just a platform. That's all it is. There was like this misnomer about what Shopify was. I think some of that's falling off, now, hopefully. So the people who are in it are really like in it to build great businesses, customer centric, and all that good stuff. So,
Well, yeah, it does not do the swinging of the hammer for you. Right? You
mhm.
can sign up and you can, pull out your Visa and plug it in there and say, I've got a subscription for this. Guess what? Now the work starts,
Yeah.
right? You're going to have to make decisions. You're going to have to write copy. You're going to have to resize pictures. You're going to have to watch if it's working and change it and all that other stuff. And like, doesn't do
And
that.
that's why I don't have an e-commerce business, because I'm not passionate about anything right now enough to make me want to do all that work.
It is. And it never stops, right?
No,
I mean, even a simple website, it's like, it never stops.
it's never complete.
No.
It's everything is a work in progress. And I know you had Chloe on the show
Yeah.
recently,
Right.
right? Her mantra, keep optimizing,
Yeah.
because that's all you're ever doing, always and
Always.
forever.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
forever. It's a process. It's not a product. Your website, your store, etc. Yeah, which is probably true of your email list as well. Well, where does someone hunt you down if they go, dang, she knows what she's talking about. I want some help.
E-commerce badassery.com. On e-commerce
E-commerce
badassery,
badassery.
all the places. Yes.
Did you have any? I love it. This is like, it's kind of the way I talk too. But did you have any hesitation about hanging badassery on the end, or were you like, "Yes, domain available? That's me."
So this was actually my second business name.
Okay.
And the first one was the business badass. I was always going to have some sort of badass in it because I also have quite the potty mouth, and all that stuff. That's just who I am. And if that offends you, you probably don't want to work or learn from me anyway. So it's fine. But what happened was people kept, for me, it was about the person I work with becoming the business badass. And then everybody thought I was referring to myself as the business badass. So I was like, no, 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 that's not what I meant. I need to change this. That's weird. I mean, I'm not that cool, right?
Yes.
So then I just like brainstormed and brainstormed and brainstormed, and it came to me, and I was like, the one, I just knew it. But yeah, no hesitation. It's funny too, because in my podcast intro, there's some expletives, and it just sort of happened naturally, and I left it. And I remember my mom saying like, "Oh, it sounds really good, but," and I was like, "Well, you're not my customer, and it's fine, and I don't care." You
I didn't think I'd ever get to meld these two live and on camera, but there's a email newsletter that I'm a big fan of, Stratechery, written by a guy named Ben Thompson. Leave that aside. There's another guy named Ben Thompson who wrote a book called Badass,
Mm.
which my wife somewhat innocently brought home for our relatively young boys. Like, oh, it's got great stories from history, not realizing it was sort of Conan meets a frat boy version of history. Quite good, by the way. Like really quite.
Probably a more fun way to learn it.
Oh, much more fun. My sons have like some extraordinary grasp on history because Ben Thompson made it really fun with the kind of language you expect with a title like Badass. And we actually got to hear him speak at the local bookstore, and he was like, "Yeah, I couldn't do any of this without Google book search. Like find obscure guy from Viking period X, and I could go find the one book that was parked in the Harvard Library and read up on him and stuff." But so there are badasses out there in your club. I'm glad to see you flying that flag.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is for anyone, right? If you are creating a brand on the internet, like just be you. It's repel the people that are not the right fit for you or your product. The right people will find you. And, like, what is such a cliche, but why blend in when you want to stand out?
There you go.
And people love it. They work with me because of it, not in spite of it. So
Yeah, the ones who don't like it can go find,
someone else.
Yeah, it's got they got a world of choice out there.
100%.
Well, so someone who enjoyed this episode, whether video or audio, can go hunt Jessica down at ecommerce.badassery.com. Jessica, it was a delight speaking with you. Thanks for making the time.
You too. My pleasure. Thanks for having me. And I hope everyone had fun listening.